Greetings and salutations. It's that time again for more One Talent Challenge. Paladin. Used to be Barbarian, but he died. Used to be Druid, but he died. Now it's Paladin. Until he dies. And then when he dies, it'll be something else. I'll keep going till I get the formula right. But remember the last time, maybe one of my previous videos, not the last time I was doing this, but in one of my previous videos, I wanted to talk about Christmas.
No place for a warrior to die.
And the thing is about Christmas is, I get it. People are like, Yule tidings, goodwill toward men, that kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I want to talk about, okay? This is going to kind of go off into, like, theological / conspiracy territory, so be prepared for that. That's number one. And number two, this is based on my observations, so take it with a grain of salt. But everybody knows the rumor that Christmas is a pagan holiday, so on and so forth, because you're decorating a tree, something about it deals with Baal and Moloch and other things like that. But nevertheless, let's step away from that for just this 1 second, and let's talk about what's known about Christmas. Well, Christmas takes place in the 25th of December, as we all know, and we're told that it was Jesus' birthday. Well, was it really? Let's take a look. It's sure, you might think, well, Jesus was indeed born on December 25th. He was. He was indeed. Now, let's take a look at the word December. D-E-C, dec, meaning 10. December used to be the 10th month. And with December being the 10th month, what would that actually make it? Well, that would make it October. So, October was the 8th month. You take a look at the older calendar, and it only had 10 months in it. Now, here's the interesting part. The 2 months that were added were July and August for Julius and Augustus Caesar. So, taking those away, September was the 7th month. Sept meaning 7, Oct meaning 8, Nov meaning 9, Dec meaning 10. So if you go by the old iteration of the calendar, Jesus was actually born October 25th, which was at that time then December because of 10th month. So he was born in the 10th month, 25th day of the 10th month. So October 25th. Now let's take a look at how it's been twisted and contorted. You take a look at Christmas today. What does it do? Well, it encompasses the 7 deadly sins. Sloth, because nobody wants to move in the winter. Nobody wants to do anything in the winter. People don't want to go anywhere. They're very slothful in their actions. They wait until the last minute to put the presents out, etc., and so on. They wait until the last minute to put their decorations up. So sloth is a factor. Envy. You're always envious about what other people have gotten. Wrath. Usually comes in the form of the myth of, you're getting coal in your stocking, etc. And, of course, the wrath of creatures such as the Krampus. So you have the Krampus generating wrath as well. So there's that deadly sin. Greed. And that is doing things that are obviously monetarily greedy. Pride. You take pride in the gift you got them and you're like, look at me. I got them such a wonderful gift. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, how does sloth and lust come into play? Lust doesn't necessarily have to mean carnal lust. That's where people conflate things. Lust can also mean lusting after food, lusting after items. I mean, this is also seen in the words like bloodlust. They were lusting for blood. Not necessarily Christmas related, but it's word related. So lust can be used for any sort of thing you're driving toward or desiring with a fervent passion. So there is lust because people lust after the items under the tree. And then, of course, gluttony. Of course, everybody likes to misconstrue gluttony and say, well, there you go. You've got gluttony that's overeating. Wrong. Gluttony is always wanting in excess of what you already have. You take a look at what you already have and you go, that's it? So you take a look at your gifts and you say, that's all? Gluttony. So let's see if I've done them all. Wrath, envy, sloth, greed, gluttony, lust, pride. That's all of them. So it has all 7 deadly sins in the holiday. Now let's take a look. They say that the heart is the home for the Lord. Okay? This was known. People say this all the time. They say the heart is the house of the Lord. Now let's take a look. Now let's extrapolate that out. Your home is your home, right? And it does say, wherever 2 people shall meet and think of me, I shall be there. That is one of the biblical passages. But let's break this down. Who comes into your house in mythology? Who comes into your house and tries to bribe you so long as you pay tribute in a form of milk and cookies? A man who wears red, red being synonymous with Satan. Weird, the guy's name is Santa, which is an anagram of Satan. Now, if you take a look at it in that regard, he invades your house and he leaves you gifts and hopes that you pay tribute to him. Who does that sound like? Sounds vaguely familiar to a red demonic being who did the very same thing. Very interesting. Now, of course, people would be like, wait a minute, you're equating Santa with Satan? Yes. Yes, I am. Because you can make the comparison. Readily available, you can make the comparison. Now, of course, you're going to have people out there that are going to be like, wait a minute, kids might watch this. You don't want kids to watch this. Fine. Dandy. But there's way too many signs pointing to the fact that Christmas, as we know it now, was moved to the 12th month so as to get as far away from Jesus' actual birthday. And then they were to corrupt it with the 7 deadly sins and basically holding that which is essentially Satan in high regard. Wanting his gifts for a tribute.
What can I do for you?
Sounds vaguely familiar to sacrifices. You want the gifts of power from the tribute being the sacrifice. Kind of weird, isn't it? Kind of weird how it all goes together. Now, let's go even one further. Well, how does this relate to October? Well, we already know that October 25th on the current calendar is Jesus' actual birthday. Now, what did the corrupt powers that be do? They decided to make a holiday embracing the 7 deadly sins exactly 6 days, there's that number of 6, exactly 6 days after his birth. Now, here we go. The 7 deadly sins in Halloween, really? Oh yes. You have greed. People always want, they're greedy when it comes to getting candy. They want more and more and more. You have people dressed up as demons, demonic iconography. That's the word I was looking for. You have demonic iconography. And again, these demons demand you pay tribute, lest you be tricked by them. Trick or treat. Now, you have these same people running around, and it's all the kids and everything. However, you have the whole demonic "you pay me tribute" or else. Um, you have greed. You have sloth. Especially nowadays, kids are getting driven around, but people are lazy when they're doing their costume and they laze about. And then, of course, there's the laziness of the surrounding decorations and so on and so forth. A lot of people are lazy that time of year, and then they get lazy afterward because they don't want to do anything after they've been out all night. See? And of course, Halloween is also noted by many people as to where a lot of ritualistic sacrifices do occur, whether it be of animals or in some cases people, were actually historically linked to Halloween. But let's go even further. So you have gluttony, which is, in this case, always wanting more than you have. But in other cases, even though I said it wasn't about eating a ton of food, it could be seen as gorging yourself on food that is not good for you as well. I mean, at least in this case, it would serve as double purpose, but let's keep with the original meaning. They still want more. They're very gluttonous. They want more than they possibly need. That's gluttony. 100%. Lust, well, you've seen the costumes that women wear when they go to a Halloween party. What's that supposed to generate? Yeah. There's also the fact of lusting after candy and other goods. Wrath, people's houses getting egged if they don't give out candy. There's the wrath. Not to mention the whole trick part of the trick or treat. Envy, you get envious over what somebody else got. You didn't get that one, or you didn't get the same thing, so you're upset. Let's see. Pride. You take pride in your costumes. You take pride in what you've done, and in some cases, people have taken pride in being a ne'er-do-well on Halloween. And even Halloween itself elevates demonic iconography, like I said. And it takes place six days after Jesus' actual birthday. So now that we know all this, and we know what it is and what they're doing, why is it they decided to hide? Why is it they decided to hide Jesus' birthday? Now, mind you, I'm going to say this right now. I'm not a religious man. I'm not. I'm a man that has faith. And if I had to give myself a form of religion, I would have to say it's closer to Shintoism than it is anything else. I'm actually closer in the belief system to the Japanese than most Christians are Catholics. And they say, well, what do you mean? Why would you be, Shinto if you believe in, God and Jesus and all this stuff? Because when you look into Shintoism, they believe that the Lord is in all things, that God exists in everything, trees, circuit boards, desks, and the Japanese will actually honor things, equipment, inanimate objects. They will honor the inanimate objects when they retire them and send them off to destruction. They are honoring the spirit of the item that worked with them for all those many years. My beliefs are very akin to that. But why do I bring this up about the Halloween and Christmas? Because I don't like the fact that we as people here, and all Halloween enjoyers and all Christmas enjoyers, have been lied to. Repeatedly lied to about the actual meanings of these quote-unquote holidays. And now people would say, well, wait a minute, how do you actually know that Jesus' birthday was in October? Aside from the circumstantial evidence of the calendar being changed. Well, let's take a look at that, shall we? What was Jesus given by the 3 wise men? Gold, myrrh, and frankincense. Now, myrrh, let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. Myrrh is a a gum resin extracted from a few small thorny tree species. Now, myrrh gum, like frankincense, is such a resin. Now, it has to be, there's like myrrh is harvested repeatedly, but I'm reading this off of Wikipedia. It's harvested by repeatedly wounding the trees to bleed gum, which is waxy and coagulates quickly. After the harvest, the gum becomes hard and glossy. The gum is yellowish and may be either clear or opaque. It darkens deeply as it ages, white streaks emerge. It is commonly extracted from the species Commiphora myrrha. And let's see, it's native to Somalia, Oman, Yemen, Eritrea, Somali region of Ethiopia, and parts of Saudi Arabia. Now, does it say where the harvest season is? It does not, but frankincense, I would assume all of the myrrh and frankincense there were harvested in the autumnal season. That's when most harvests happen anyway. If my assumption is correct that these are mostly harvested in the autumnal season, then it would stand to reason that fresh myrrh and fresh frankincense were gotten by the wise men not too long before his birth. October is a harvest season pretty much the northern hemisphere, which is where all of these locations, chiefly Yemen, Oman, and Saudi Arabia, are. Now, are there autumnal seasons as cold as, say, the United States? No. But the point is sometimes the plants don't care, and they know when the autumnal season is, and they will just produce for the harvest. This lends more credence to Jesus being born in the fall, in the autumnal season, than more so than in the winter. Now, having that and the anecdotal evidence of the calendar just points more fingers toward the fact that Jesus was born in October and not December. Modern October. Archaic December. So why would they go and they lie to us? Why would they go and they change all of the calendars? And why would they go and they do all this? Makes no sense, right? It's hard to wrap your head around it. Unless the entirety of the world's history has been run by Satanists all along.
Good evening.
Now, people would say, whoa, wait a minute, that's a hot topic. You're off into the conspiracy land. Aha! Now we're getting somewhere. I am kind of delving off into the conspiracies. But is there anything wrong with that? No, not really. You don't have to believe it, and like I said, it does delve into the conspiracy area, so take it with a grain of salt. However, let's say I'm right. And there's this group of people that have been pulling the strings for ever since the dawn of time. Now, how do you get people to readily accept almost having an idolistic view, which idolatry is not seen as a sinful thing in the Christian faith? Even though I'm not particularly religious. I have a lot of faith, but that's it. So let's say it's idolatry. And now how are you getting a whole bunch of people who were rigid Catholics and rigid Christians throughout all of Europe and even into the early Americas to go down the pathway of idolatry? Simple. You deceive them. And when you deceive them, wait, there's somebody that was called the Great Deceiver. Oh, that's right, Lucifer. Satan himself, the Great Deceiver. The greatest lie he will ever tell you is that he does not exist. Now, people will say, wait a minute, Quiz. You've gone off the rails. He's lost it. He's gone nuts. He's cracked, right? But am I? Realistically, take a seat. Think about it. Am I really that far off?
Good evening.
And all signs point to the same group of people, all doing the same things.
Hello.
Now, they ascribe to their own religion of, Satanism. But it just begs the question. What do they gain by having people follow this? Well, look back toward the Shinto religion now. What do they gain? If God is in all things, then by that metric, if you give power to something that is... How do I want to put this? If you give power to something, doesn't it then become stronger and have a hold over you? Same can be said for ghost hunting. Things that I always tell people when dealing with spirits. Never let them scare you. Never show them power. Never give them the power over you. That's the biggest mistake anybody can make, is being frightened by spirits. Because once they have power over you, well, they have power pretty much over you. So this is why you don't give them an inch. Same thing.
Greetings.
By the more and more people celebrating Christmas and doing what they're doing, and doing what everyone believes is tradition. Now what did we find out? Oh, we found out that you could inadvertently be doing some form of satanic worship. It just seems a little weird that no one's really questioned it or looked into it or thought about it.
Great evil here.
And those that have thought about it were immediately... I mean, look at the amount of people that get shunned and pushed away by posing even a mild conspiracy. And now, of course, you're going to have people, maybe not so much in my comment section because I'm not widely known yet, but you're going to have people saying, well, wait a minute. What group of individuals did this? Well, whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of them that they follow things like Moloch, which, let's delve one further. You take a look at sports games, the NFL. The NFL recently has had a lot of satanic imagery. They've even had some people who are open Satanists as performers for the halftime show, for the Super Bowl, or, if written differently, the Superb Owl. Well, the Superb Owl would be Moloch. Now, people say, oh, but that's not, technically satanic. Yeah, well, it kind of is. Now, of course, people can have this discussion all they want. People's opinions will vary, which is, like I said, this is my opinion on the whole matter. And it's like, this is why I try not to give attention to anything like that at all. I try not to. As little attention to it as humanly possible. Now, if you really take a look at it, take a look at the Lombardi Trophy. Let's go even one further. Take a look at the Lombardi Trophy and the base it sits on. The base it sits on is a pyramid-esque style structure. And then at the top is a football. But it's not shaped like, a circular ball, like, European football. They say, well, of course not. It's not European football. It's not soccer. It's American football. Okay, but what's it shaped like? Like, give it a real good look. Doesn't it look like an eye? A partially closed eye? Almost like the Eye of Providence on the back of a $1 bill that's on top of the pyramid. And everybody knows the eye above the pyramid on the back of the $1 bill, where it says Ordo Novus Seclorum. New secular order. So everybody knows about it. So why does the Lombardi Trophy look that way? It's an interesting design, don't you think? Take a look at the Stanley Cup. It's a multi-tiered chalice. Who else uses chalices? That's a bit weird. Chalices are widely used by people performing rituals. It's just kind of getting to be a weird coincidence now, isn't it? Well, how long before a coincidence stops being a coincidence? Like, almost mathematically impossible to be a coincidence. If you think about it, right? One coincidence, alright, yeah, okay, whatever. 2, 3, what's the limit? 5? 12. 12 coincidences is the limit, right? No. Not when you believe that things have been designed. If it's been designed, chances are it's controlled by somebody. And if you go further off into the weeds on professional sports, it's almost always run by the bookies. Now, you're going to have people saying, well, wait a minute, how can you prove it's run by the bookies? You have professional athletes that sometimes they do get truthfully injured. And I do say the word truthfully injured because some of them take a dive. And they'll take a dive with usually a kind of a lame injury like turf toe or a dislocated thumb. You can't necessarily prove it. You can't disprove it either. Unless you see them in day-to-day life, when you talk to them daily, and you know them personally. You can't really prove that they've dislocated their thumb. It's merely hearsay. It's them saying, ah, yes, my thumb's dislocated, I can no longer throw the football. Okay. But now you're just taking their word for it. Who causes things in the game to, like, let's take football, for example. Quarterback pretty much has penultimate power. He can call any play he wants to at the line, whether or not the coach gave him the right one or not. He can also overthrow the ball, underthrow the ball, purposely. He can also do a lot of things that would throw the game in the opponent's favor. Now, you're probably wondering, why would he do that? Why would he do that? Very interesting question. Well, let's say you're the quarterback of, I don't know, the New York Giants. You're playing against San Francisco 49ers. Now, your team's not very good. Your team's kind of things haven't been coming together for you. So your team's kind of doing poorly. San Francisco, on the other hand, they've been playing really well in this example. So the San Francisco quarterback comes up and says, you know what? I'm going to put 10,000 on the Giants to win. Through a bookie, through a third-party bookie with an alias. Usually through their phone, which could be destroyed at the drop of a hat. Almost like Tom Brady used to destroy his phones every 3 months like clockwork. Makes you wonder why. And for those of you that don't believe that, that was brought up at the whole Deflategate scandal during the trial. They were looking for evidence as to him tampering with stuff. And they said, well, do you have any evidence? Blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, he does destroy his phones every 3 months. They said it doesn't even have to be because of anger. He just destroys it. His teammates never knew why. Well, put two and two together. Why would you destroy your phone unless you're paying to take a dive? Especially on the big name games. Think about it. How many Super Bowls did he lose? By a weird call or a bad pass. It's a little curious. Anyway, I digress. You're the quarterback for the Giants. 49ers quarterback comes up and says, well, I'm going to put money down on the Giants to win. He lets you know that he's going to put money down on the Giants to win. Mind you, he's using a proxy. He's using an alias. So that he doesn't get found for betting on these own games. And then he proceeds to go out and, first quarter he's doing fine. Second quarter he's doing fine. After halftime, and the bets have kind of been solidified, he starts throwing interceptions. He doesn't handle the ball quite right when it comes off the snap. His hands slip. Oh, it's a fumble. Now you can tell if he's betting with his friends, because his friends and other teammates, you'll have running backs who just can't seem to get a handle on the ball. Even though they're sure-handed every day of the week, they just can't seem to get a handle on the ball. Or they will sprain their ankle and they'll limp off the field. Oh, well, there goes their yard generator. There goes their run game. Well, now they're one-dimensional. Oh, no. When you're one-dimensional, what happens? The opponent can predict what you're going to do. And the receivers just so happen to drop the pass. Oh. It's way too easy to stage it. Way too easy to stage it. Now, of course, you have those people that say, but what about baseball? Yeah, what about baseball? You ever see that super hot pitcher that's out there? He rarely makes any mistakes. All of a sudden, he just starts feeding balls right over the strike zone to the heavy hitters. He'll strike out other players, but he feeds balls over the strike zone. Now, all the pitchers work together on this, I'm sure, because they all sit there in the bullpen and they talk. Either before the game, well, they're not sitting in the bullpen before the game, but the ones that are in the bullpen during the game are talking. About what? How much to throw? When to throw? Got to make it look good. Got to keep people interested. Because the big games, World Series, Championship Series, Divisional Series, that's where all the big money is, you see. That's when you make the most money. Seems a little weird, doesn't it? Now, this goes even further. NFL stadiums and the reconstruction of NFL stadiums make a lot of money. If you're getting a new stadium built, you're either going to host a Super Bowl, be in a Super Bowl, or if you're the team, you're going to win the Super Bowl. As people say, wait a minute, why? Here's why. The NFL makes the majority of their money off of merchandising. As is with anything. Literally, any venture makes pretty much all of its money off merchandising. This can be seen in, like, record sales. Not record sales, but bands. When you go and you support a band, yeah, you buy their tickets. You go watch them live. You know, a band doesn't make all that much money off live shows. The gig might pay them money up front, but they don't make all that much money off the live shows. All of their coin comes in, and I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like the money, how you rub your fingers together. It's like, oh yeah, the coin, the money, that kind of thing. I'm doing it even though I don't have a camera. Camera's still on the fritz, but here I am still making the hand gestures. Nevertheless, you have all these people that make all their money off of merchandising. Does it cost them pennies on the dollar to have a shirt silkscreened? Especially when it says on the back of the shirt, made in China, made in Mexico, made in Guatemala. It doesn't matter where it's made. I'm sure they do great work. but they're not paying hardly anything for those import fees. They get the shirts in and they sell them to you for $25. The overhead, the overhead they're clearing on selling a single shirt, massive. They don't make money on album sales. To prove it, take a look at what is his name if I can think of it right now? Serge Tankian. Serge and System of a Down, their one album was named Steal This Album. Because they knew it was going to happen. Their band never went out of business. They broke up, eventually. Serge went and did his own thing, and became a solo artist. Didn't go very far. But, nevertheless, it's not like they were hemorrhaging money. It's not like System of a Down was like, oh no, we've lost all of our money because album sales. No. No. They knew 100% that the album was going to get stolen by downloaders, by people downloading. They knew it. That's why they named the album what they did. They knew people were going to take it. Come on. But yet, they never really lost money on the albums. They still made money. So much money that they could afford houses in the hills. Beverly Hills. They went out and they were buying bag lunches for the homeless. Paying off police fines, too, for that, by the way. System of a Down went out there and was giving out bag lunches to the homeless, and the police out in California said, no. You can't do that. It's illegal. For some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, it was illegal. System of a Down paid the fine right there in cash. So it's not like they were hurting for money. Which begs the question. Where'd they make it all? Definitely wasn't off all the live concerts and all the ticket sales. Because you got to think that's how they pay for the venue. Oh, well, we're going to reserve this venue for this time. Well, that's going to cost you money. Okay. So you reserve the venue, and you don't really have to worry about it because, well, once you have the venue reserved, you're good to go. Now all the money you make pays off the venue rental and the roadies and the equipment and everything. Pays all that off. Awesome. So everything on top of that's icing on the cake. And with it being icing on the cake, they then turn to merchandising to make all of their money. It's like I said, the ROI, return on investment for merchandising, is much higher than it is for anything else. NFL runs the same way. But how do you sell merchandise? Let's say you're an NFL team. Say you're a team owner. How on earth do you sell merchandise if you're building a new stadium? You're going to build a new stadium, and you want to pay off that stadium. So I hate to say it, but stadiums are not paid for by the owner. They're partially paid for by the owner. They're partially paid for by the league itself. And they're partially paid for by you, the taxpayer. And then partially paid by you, the taxpayer, again, when you buy tickets. And also paid partially by you, the taxpayer, when buying merch. Yeah. They get you 3 times for the same thing. Whoa. So, after they've dinged you 3 times for the same amount of stuff, for the same, basically paying for the one stadium, but how do you get the people to show up to support the team? Well, the team's got to be good enough to make it to a championship, or at least be contending for one. Now, this is my theory again. Here we go. Take it with a grain of salt. I got to pour myself a cup of coffee, but here's my theory. If you are renovating a stadium, your team will make it to playoffs or some form of playoff-esque thing. I think they're all called playoffs. Even in NASCAR now, it's called playoffs. Anyway, Your team, car, whatever, will make it to the playoffs. NASCAR is very specific because that one seems a little bit harder to stage unless it's individual gambling. Because you can't really hand the title to a very specific person. You hand it more or less to a crew. So it might be a little bit harder to rig NASCAR as it is, except for the individual gambling aspect. I'll probably delve into that one a little bit later in a different video once I research it more. But you're in the league. Now, the CEO of the league, doesn't matter what league it is, and it doesn't matter who the CEO is, the CEO has ultimate control over everything. Referees, venues, you name it, they control all aspects. However, there is one person underneath the CEO who controls all the referees, what stadiums they go to, what games they officiate, etc. And that's the Chief Operations Officer. The Chief Operations Officer is probably directly linked to the referees making the calls that they do. Ever wonder why you've had suspicious calls that never seem to go your team's way? It's to hinder them. It's to make the game closer or to blow the game further out of the water, etc. based on the point spread. Because you got to remember, they have to win and the house has to win and everyone else has to lose. If you happen to win at the same time the house does and the same time that the team owners do, congratulations, you got a lucky bet. 9 times out of 10, the house is going to take your money, and so is the team owners. However, let's continue with this as I make my way down to Endario. If you renovate a stadium, you get yourself either, playoff contention, or you're in the playoffs, maybe one thrilling win, maybe a win against somebody who's meant to take the fall. They're such a great team all year long, but then all of a sudden they come into your stadium and just can't seem to deal with the crowd or can't seem to get their act together, whatever it is. That's an option. If you move your team to a new city, chances are you will get a Super Bowl. You will be allowed to host the Super Bowl or host the championship. That doesn't work for baseball so much because baseball goes back and forth. They spend time in one area, spend time in the other area. Boom. Perfect. Not that baseball's not, you can still rig baseball, but it's not tied to stadium renovations and everything, at least to my knowledge. The NFL is the only one that pulls this off. That's the stadium renovations and everything. That's linked to it. Of course, people don't want to believe it. They want to believe that it's just the sports. It's this team played better than that team. No. Sorry, hate to burst your bubble, but no.
What can I do for you?
And how do you know this? Well, let's take a look. You can ask yourself one question. Out of all those years, the team's playing through right now, okay? You have hats. These hats are made that say, we're going to use NFL again. These hats are made, and they're not made for the Super Bowl because it takes more time to make those hats than just the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. You can't ship that much and have them shipped from where they're made to here. These hats are made ahead of time, okay? So you have all these hats made, hundreds of thousands of hats made of who's going to be the Super Bowl champion a month or so ahead of time. How do they know? Well, they can't just make it for all the teams because it's your 2020 whatever Super Bowl champion or your blah, 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 world champion. How do they know? How is it the players have access to those hats and you can purchase those hats immediately after the game's over? No one asked that question? Did no one sit down and go, wait a minute, why is there a commercial that pops up and says, like for last year, the Kansas City Chiefs, why is it a commercial pops up and says, Kansas City Chiefs fans, your team just won the Super Bowl. Buy your official Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl merchandise today. How do they have it in stock? How do they know how many are going to buy it? They have to make up a whole bunch of those. Again, they have them made offshores, because they're not made here in the United States. And then they have them shipped here. So you have shipping times, shipping delays. They have to have them in stock for when the game finishes. So what happens? How does that work? Unless they knew ahead of time. But if they knew ahead of time... Whoa, 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 whoa. And Daryl. She got a bit of the halitosis.
Greetings. Yes?
How did they know ahead of time? It's an interesting question. How did they know months ahead of time? Same way with college teams. Georgia Bulldogs, Ohio State, Michigan. How'd they know? Ow. That was painful. How do they know ahead of time, though? Nobody ever asks that question. Nobody ever sits down and says, well, how'd they figure that out?
Good evening.
How do they know, which team's going to win that far ahead? It's all staged. It's like wrestling. It's like WWE. How do you know who's going to win? Well, they already know because it's already been predetermined.
My work here is finished.
Yeah. And with it all being predetermined, it makes you wonder, why do people even pay attention to it if it's already set in stone? Now you're starting to see, aren't you? You're starting to see everything tearing away at the edge of the fabric. You're starting to see the man behind the curtain. Now, if you want to sit there and go back into your life and, sit there and think, well, it's never happens. It never happens. It's all, it's whatever. You're welcome to. You're welcome to sit there and put as much doubt on it as you want.
Finally.
But what does it get you? What does doubting get you? Well, if you think about it, you're just doubting what they're saying. You're doubting the narrative that's being fed to you. It gives you perspective. That's about it. But once you realize that, hey, maybe you've been lied to this entire time about pro sports, Christmas, pretty much everything. Now what? You open your eyes to it. You wonder why earlier today I saw on Twitter LeBron James, who has questionable ethics,
Welcome.
considering he knows Puff Diddy, and everybody knows about that. So why is it he was saying, well, we don't have a whole lot of viewer ratings right now. The ratings are low. We need to up the ratings. Why are the ratings low? Why is it people are unenthused about your career, your game that you play?
Good day.
That's curious, isn't it? Nobody is interested in watching sports. It's almost like people have gotten to see the truth.
I'll put that to good use.
Now, I'm not saying what I've said here is monumentous or earth-shaking, but like I said, take it with a grain of salt.
I'll put that to good
Might mean nothing, might mean everything. You never can tell. But I'm not one to just sit there and kind of like
I'll put that to good use.
sweep everything away and say, it's nonsense. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. Because I know better. I know better because I watch things. And when I watch things and things don't add up, I watch things closely. And I start asking questions. And the most important question anyone could ever ask at any given time is, who stands to gain? Simply it. Who stands to gain? If you're sitting there and you're
Oh, hi there.
thinking to yourself, well, it's a sporting event. If it's rigged,
See you again.
okay, let's say it is. Ask yourself the question, who stands to gain? And who loses the most? Viewers lose. Because viewers think they get so invested in it, like, yeah, it just wasn't that team's day. You get so invested with it, and then it lets you down. Curious. Like I said, I don't. I question everything now. But I hope you had fun going down this little conspiracy corner theology trek, so to speak. I hope you enjoyed it, because I know I did. And I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.